Hi, good morning, everyone. Fine. So next in hand, what we have is something called as a roll-up summary trigger. So, and prior to this, let me first of all make you understand about a few of the things so that we could understand this in more clear. So basically, see what happens is like, what is a roll-up summary? First of all, we know this. So just to have a quick recap, roll-up summary, by the way, is a is a field that could be only created between two objects when there is a master detail relationship, first of all. So roll-up summary is a kind of functionality what you can create, and it should be always created on the parent, by the way. Should always be created on the parent object. That to be if the relationship between that parent object and the child is a master detail relationship. Whereas if it's a lookup relationship, we cannot create that. But out of context, we have discussed one thing, even I guess yesterday itself probably we have that discussion. There's only one lookup relationship There's only one lookup relationship where you can create a roll-up summary, and that is between account and opportunity. So account and opportunity is the only form of relationship which behaves like to be a master detail because it provides cascade deletion. It also provides the functionalities of roll-up summary. And that is the only lookup relationship, although apart from that, for every other place, on every other place, you always have to, if you are creating a roll-up summary, you first of all would require to check the relationship between those two objects. So basically, that is what is a roll-up summary. Roll-up summary have particularly four different forms of function. Sum, minimum, maximum. We have seen that, right? So for example, and the count as well. For example, if you wanted to count like how many number of child records are associated with this parent, so you can implement that count function. If you wanted to get the sum of anything, example, if there is an amount field in the child object and you wanted to get, like for this particular record, how many, what is the sum of all of the amount, so you can implement that with the sum. There is another minimum and maximum. So roller summary has all these four default functions, and we cannot change the definition of this, right? We just have to use them how they are to be. So basically, this is what we already have understood, right? Now, let me talk about one of the scenario where you would going to realize why we actually is learning this trigger. What is the purpose of designing this trigger? So let's come to that fact. So for example, if there are two objects, and let's talk about standard account and a contact object. So if there's an account object, and let me redesign this diagram. So if there is an account object, for example, there's an account, and for that account record, let's say there are three contacts that are associated to that account. So there is an account record, let's say called as Merck Incorporation, right? For that Merck Incorporation, there are three separate contact records associated. Like let's say contact number one, and then let's say contact. So we're typing in Yoti. Let's say contact two, and then let's say contact three. So these are the three contact records, let's say, which are associated with this account called as Merck Incorporation, right? Now inside in this account, we have a field called as number of contact. Let's say we have a field called as number of contacts. There's a field called number of contacts. Number of contacts. Number of contacts. There's a field, let's say it's a text field or it's a number field, whatever. There's a field called a number of contacts. Now, intentionally, what we wanted to display, like for this particular account, how many contacts are associated. In this case, the answer would be 3. This case, the answer would be 3. So this should be happen with every account record. So if I would give this scenario, like, we wanted to implement, and this could be done for any of the cases. I mean, the trigger which you are going to learn for this particular use case. This is just an example between account and contact, although it can be, it can be put into any real-time scenario, into any real. I probably have created one of them. I'll just try to look it. First of all, we will go with this, and as an example, I'll just try to find it out, because I probably have created a similar trigger, a similar kind of trigger for this, and I'll try to show you that functionality later if you get the time. But let me first of all try to understand. First of all try to make you understand that. Uh, so this is simply, this is simply like, you wanted to count how many number of child records are associated with this parent. Now, every time we cannot go with a roll up summary. Although this can be easily done, there is a standard out of box functionality in Salesforce for that called roll up summary. But we cannot implement this over here. Why? Because the relationship between account and this contact is not master detail. If it was master detail, I can definitely do that. I can definitely implement that, right? And if this was account and opportunity, again, although it was a lookup, still we can implement this with the roll-up summary. For example, if this example was let me try to make a little twist into this. So if this example was like, for example, for this particular account, how many opportunities are there, or what is the sum of the annual revenue of every opportunity, So that could be easily done up with the roll-up summary, because Salesforce allows you to create roll-up summary between account and opportunity also. But here, that is not a case, obviously. And this could be, this scenario, we can get this scenario for any sort of relationship. Let's say there is an object. I'll just clear everything. Let's say there is an object. There's an object, maybe a custom object is there. There is one custom object called C1. Now that custom object is having like C2 and C3 as a child. And the relationship between all of them is lookup relationship. We always strive and see, understand. I long back, like, it's a long back, but I am sure that I have told you that if we wanted to create a relationship, we always try to prefer a lookup relationship, because that is very much flexible. That is very much flexible. So let's say we have created a relationship of C1 with C2 and C3, and we have created a lookup relationship that time. Why? Because there are a lot of flexibility with the lookup relationship. And if you have learned those differences between lookup and master detail relationship, so every one of you in that case will have an idea what I'm talking about. You delete the parent, only parent would get deleted, child wouldn't get deleted. Security and sharing settings of parent is different, whereas for the child it is different. You can have two separate security and sharing settings for them. Then we could have, a child could have 40 associated parents to them. In the master detail, there was only 2. And there were, when we consider master detail, there are a lot of restrictions rather. Whereas lookup is really flexible. So the relationship between, let's consider, for an instance, let's consider that C1 and C2, C2 and C3. These are all, every one of over here, like C1, C2, C3, all of them are custom objects. And C2 and C3, they are associated to C1. Both of them are child to C1 in the lookup relationship. Now, inside in the C1, I have a field like number of childs. Inside in C1, inside in the parent, I have a field, a number field or a text field, whatever. And I wanted to display the count of like C1 is having like 2 childs. So how I'm going to create this? Can I create a roll-up summary? Obviously not. I cannot do that. Why? Because the kind of relationship it has is a lookup relationship. And it is not feasible to convert this lookup into master detail. That is again is not possible. Because there are so many business reasons. There are so many business reasons by which you have created a lookup relationship. And you cannot say just for this functionality, I wanted to convert this from lookup to the master. We cannot say like that. So in that case, obviously, we'll have to develop a custom logic for this. I cannot go with roll-up summary because that would require me to convert the relationship from lookup to master detail, which is entirely is not possible. So this logic, this custom logic, I'll have to develop a custom logic for this, and that always is done with a trigger. So at least, two scenarios which can only be implemented with the triggers, and there's no other alternative for that. I guess yesterday we have discussed one of them is the deduplication process. When you wanted to maintain uniqueness of a record, every record should be a unique record inside in a particular object, and we don't wanted any duplications to be allowed. That can only be implemented with trigger. And second is this scenario. So whenever you wanted to implement a functionality of a roll-up summary, there's no other alternative apart from your triggers, right? So what we wanted in this case, so we wanted to have a functionality where we wanted inside in the account, I wanted to get the count of all contacts that are associated. So what I'm going to do would be like, I'll be creating a field. I'll be creating a field inside contacts. So, inside account. I don't have any such field called as number of contacts presently. So I'll do one thing. I would first of all go to the object manager. All right. I'll go to the account, and inside in the account, is this. Not sure why I have created this. Why it is over here? That's pretty strange. Why we have this account name? I'll have to. I'm not sure why it is there. Anyways, that is not something to discuss right now. But that is something which is really strange why we are looking into this. Anyway, I would be creating a new field first of all, right? So I'll go to this new button. What type of field? Because we wanted to display the count, right? Number. Count would always be a number. So I'm selecting a number field. You can see a number I have selected. And see, this interface is same as you have used this in the classic as well. The difference is like, it is not migrating us from one page to another as it does in the classic. This is just this everything what you're looking is being, is already being loaded into the cache memory. So it's coming from the cache. So I have selected that field data type to be number, and then I'll click onto the next button. I'll give the name as like number of contacts, and I'm not making it required, obviously. Click onto the next button. I'll make it visible initially for everybody, but in real time, we don't do it like that. We don't do it like this. Rather, we select which profile should have the visibility and we shouldn't have that, right? So in real time, we always select those profiles individually, and we never do this like this. The next, I'll be making this to be land on every layout for now. In the real time, again, we select only those record types and layout where we wanted this field to be get appeared, right? And I would save it. So now we have a field called number of contacts. We have a field called number of contacts, which actually is a number field. And if you would open any record for an instance, right, I'll just make this tab as duplicated. And if you would just try to go to account, I'll just try to open a record over there. Any record, let's consider this one. So you would be going to go to the details tab. Yeah, see, I wanted to do a customization over here. I can see that related tab come first and detailed tab come later on. I mean, yesterday also, I was about to tell this, but I almost forgot this. So let's do one thing. I'm just breaking this discussion a little. And what I'm going to do, I'll just teach you, how to customize this lightning page. Because related tab is coming first and details. News is coming. I don't require that, right? I'm not at all interested in the news. In the right hand side, you have activities and chat. I'm going to talk about this later, how to customize this as well. But at least one customization I'm showing you. And probably just anybody just remind me this, tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to tell you like how you can remove this and how you can bring this entire page to be loaded from this corner to this corner, right? So by tomorrow, I'm going to tell you this. If I would forgot, just any one of you just remind that. Now, small customization, I'm teaching you how to make this, like, detailed tab should come first and related should come next, and news should not be there, right? So go to this gear icon and click onto this edit page, right? Please see to this. You can write it down if you want. Otherwise, there's no need because this is getting recorded. So go to this gear icon, click onto the edit page. We are actually making changes in the Lightning page, all right? So this is something called as Lightning App Builder. This is what is getting loaded. You can close out the notifications. So this is something called as Lightning App Builder. You can close out the notifications, of course. So you just have to, first of all, make a click on to where you wanted to make the changes. I wanted to make the changes over here. So I'll just click on to any one of them. You can click here, here, here. That's not an issue. You would click, it would, it would take you to the tabs, right? And the pages, we are about to make the changes in the tab. So as you can see, there are 3 tabs over there: related, details, and news. I would be, I'll just clicking onto this news so that because I don't wanted that, and you can see it has been removed. Moreover, I wanted details. I'll just, drag and drop it, and the default tab, I'm making it as a detail. Now, once you would save this, right? Once you would save this, so this is for the first time. Uh, if you have stopped this, so it would not display. I was about to tell you this, but it's a good thing that this pop-up has been arrived. So once you have make any changes in the Lightning page, actually just saving wouldn't, say, if you would save this, it wouldn't commit those changes on the page. You actually would require to activate that page, right? So I'll just clicking onto this, and we would require to activate. How to activate? There's a button over here, activation, just show you. So once you save it, even though if you have saved it, that doesn't means, that does not means it's going to commit those changes. Let me show you that as well. So I'll just, once again, I'll duplicate this. People used to think, people used to ask me like, we have committed the changes, but that is not getting reflected on the Lightning page. So why it is happening? So I just asked them one thing: after saving, have you activated that page? So they told me, no, 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 we haven't done that. So that is the reason, that is the reason your changes are not getting committed. See, still. So even though I have in the back end, I have committed the change. You can see there's only 2 tabs. I have committed the changes, but still it appears to be the old one. So why this is happening? I'm just coming to that fact. So once you make those changes, you obviously have to save it, but you also would require to activate that. So when you're activating this, for now, you would have to make it assign as auth default. Later on, I will be telling you what this means by app default and app default. See, I can teach you this gradually only uh, because we are onto one another topic, and when I stop that and teaching you something else, that means we are deviated from the track. So what I'm going to do would be like, I'll just try to cover every one of them with a separate example. So right now, just do one thing: make it assign as the org default. Select desktop and phone, because we wanted this space to be displayed same if you are accessing it from a desktop, a laptop, whatever, or even if you are accessing from the phone. So in both of the form factor, we wanted the space to be look identical in both of them, and that's why I've selected, yeah, desktop and phone, and save it. Now, once you have activated that page, I don't think we require to save it again, but I just did that. I'll come back and I'll refresh it. And when you refresh it, don't go with that refresh button that appears over here, right? So that would only refresh this page. You also, so in some cases, you also require to clear the cache. So what you have to do is like, when you are working on Lightning, always to refresh your window, always press Control and then Shift and then R from your everything from your keyboard. So whenever you're working on the Lightning, it's always recommended that you should clear the cache memory of browser. So in the Chrome browser, how you can achieve this is like Control and then Shift and then R. Control Shift R. Right? So that's how. So now you can see I have detailed tab in the first position. I also have related tab next to that, and the news tab actually have been removed, right? So I'll go with this one. Okay, so I was talking like we have created a field called number of contacts. We have created a field called number of contacts. Just try to find it out. Number of contacts, yeah, this one. So presently, it's showing to me that the number of the contacts, it's blank, obviously, So do we have any contacts? I'll just try to create one contact quickly for this. So it's la contact and try to save it. So now we have one contact associated to this account. So what we are expecting? We are expecting that we should build up a business logic, that would display the number of contacts that are associated with this account over here. So we wanted that. Right now, as you can see, there is one contact associated. So this should display one over here. If there were maybe two contacts, so it should display two, right? So that is what we wanted. All right. So but because between account and contact there's lookup relationship, we cannot implement this with the roll-up summary, and that's why we are creating a custom trigger for that. Now let's go to the developer console and let me write down trigger for this. So this trigger is called as a roll-up summary trigger, right? And we are making this trigger on the account. I can create, we already have a trigger over here on the account. Uh, but the business logic is little complicated. So let me do one thing. I'm just closing this out. I would be creating this into a separate trigger. I'll be creating it inside a separate trigger. So let me give the name as to be, no. We are not going to make it onto account. One second. Mm, 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 mm. Content. Yeah. No. This has to be done on the contact. This has to be done. Why I'm telling that? Because uh, contact trigger, that trigger. Because if I would make changes in the contact, right? If I would make the changes in the contact, I'll just explain you with the example. Don't worry. First of all, let me select the object. Why I'm selecting contact rather than account. I would explain you. Don't worry. Just give me a moment. Contact trigger on the contact object. Now, why I'm creating this on contact and not on the account? Let me show you. For example, I'll just go to this any contact. I'll open one contact and go to the details tab. Now you can see this. What is this? This is a contact. What is this? This is a contact. All right. I'm making changes in the contact. Let's consider I'm creating. I'll show you that as well. Okay, let me start from that point only. I would be creating a new contact. See, what I'm doing right now, I'm creating a new contact. I'm creating a new contact, Tesla contact number 2. Okay, I'm creating a new contact. And during this new contact creation, I have selected account to be Tesla, right? I've selected account to be Tesla. What I just did, I have inserted a new record. I have inserted a new record into contact, right? And I have inserted a new record into contact. Now, when you go to the contact, when you go to the account, sorry, when you go to the account, this account Tesla, as you can see, now it has two contacts. Now it has two contacts. So if you have a field, if on the account, if there is a field called as number of contact, so after inserting a new contact, if you make it associated with that account, so this field, let's consider if previously previously number of contact was showing 1. After inserting this new contact and making it associated with the account it should on over here, what should we see? 2, right? What should we see? 2. All right. So that was after insert. Now let me show you one more thing. For example, I'll go with this. This is an contact record, and this time I'm making what? I'm updating that. I am updating that. So, and while updating this record, while performing this update, I have selected that account, right? I have selected that account. So now what should happen? Now what should happen? If you go to related, now you can see that there are 3 contacts associated to this account. So what in that case, what you should see on this number of contacts field, now it should be 3. So this is something, this is something like if you are performing any insert operation or an update operation on the contact, If you are performing any insert operation or update operation on the contact, that should be reflected on the account. And that is the reason, because see, to decide which object should be selected, you'll have to first think like, that insertion and updation should be performed into which object. So insertion is, or either the updation, whatever we are performing this on the contact. That has to be recorded on account. That's a different thing. But at least insertion and updation is happening on what? On contact, right? So that's why I'm creating the trigger on contact. And this would just, one more thing I'll have to tell. Apart from insert and update, this trigger, the first thing why I was creating this on contact, that was a fact which I made just clear. I'm creating this on contact because after insert, after update, whatever that happens, that is happening inside the contact, but we have to mark it on the account. Or the alag baat hai. But at least it is tracking the changes in contact. That's why the trigger should be created on the contact. So the first thing, selection of the object, right? It should always, this trigger should be on the contact. This trigger should be on the child. This trigger should be on the child. First thing. Second, what are the events that we have to cover after insert, after delete, after insert, after update? I have covered, right? Let me show you one. Let me show you one. So, for example, if we have presently, you can see that this account has 3 contacts associated with them. So we understand, like, this has to be created on contact. This has to be created on contact. That was the first thing. The trigger should be created onto contact. Now, coming to what are the events that this trigger should cover. Before insert, we have discussed, even before update. No, not before. It should be after insert, because we are not doing any validation. After insert or after update, right? After you inserted a record, that should be marked. After you update it, that should be marked. Okay. So after insert and after update has been covered. Now let me talk about 2 more things. So presently you can see there are 3 contacts associated to account. All right. Let me do one thing. So I'll go with this test, and you can see in the account, this is associated to an account. Let me do one thing. I would just delete this record. I would delete this contact. I would delete, right? So now once that contact has been deleted, if I will come back and I'll refresh this, how many contacts should be now associated? Only 2. Only 2. There are only 2, because one of them has been deleted, right? One of the contact has been deleted. So now there are only 2 contacts related to this account. So this field number of contact, previously it was containing 3. Now it should contain 2. That means this trigger should also cover after delete, right? After insert, it should cover, after update, and after delete as well, because that's a roll-up summary trigger. All right. Let me propose you one more scenario. Let me propose you one more scenario. So if we would go, and if we would, for example, uh, one second, guys. Yeah. So let's consider if I would restore that. All right. All right. So now let's consider if I would restore that contact. So how to restore that? We can go to the app launcher, and here we can find called recycle bin. Yeah, here from the app launcher, you'll have to find out the recycle bin. So this was that contact, right? We just have deleted. So if I would restore it back, you can select and restore. I guess from here as well, you can do this. Yeah. So there are two options. Either you can select and restore, or you can directly make a click onto this and you can restore it back. Okay. So now let me go to that contact once again. So now we have restored this contact. It was being deleted. Now it has been restored. So when it has been restored, right? When it has been restored, if you would open that, what about that relationship? So relationship still is there, right? So this means now if you would go and you would refresh this, you're going to see three contacts. I mean, that was being restored. So when it was restored, it come back with the relationship as well. So in this case, now when I ask, like, what should be there inside in this field, so it should again come back to three. So this means this trigger has to be worked after delete and even after undelete. I hope every one of you, understand this. So this has to be worked. This trigger should cover all these scenarios. It should be worked after inserting a new record. It should also work after updating an existing record. It should work after deleting a record, because the count should be get updated. If you have deleted previously, it was three. That has to become two. Three minus one, two. And if you have restored a record, if you have reached, because when the record get restored, everything get restored, even the relationship again is getting, relationship again is getting established. So if there is relationship, it has to be counted. So that should again in a count. I mean, after deletion the count becomes two, after undeletion the count should become three. That has to be incremented by one. So this is the reason, this trigger has to be covered. This trigger has to cover all these events, right? That's why I have included all of them. And this could take a little more time. It's almost 8:11. Probably I'll have to take 2 sessions for this. I'll just try to write it down and let me see how much I can cover. Hmm, I would require to split this because, if you are performing an insert operation, or if you are performing an update operation, or if you are undeleting something, if you are performing an insert, update, and undelete, you know, if you are performing an insert, you are performing an update, and you are performing an undelete operation. You remember I have asked you to draw a table, right? If you have that access to that table, just go through that. I told you one thing, like, when you are performing an insert operation or an update operation or an undelete, that record goes to trigger dot new, trigger dot new. And similarly, if you are updating something and if you are deleting something, that goes to trigger dot old. So there are two separate places. There are two separate places, and trigger would decide which record. Yeah, you can say, like, update operation. When you're updating something, that record goes to trigger dot new as well as goes to trigger dot old. But for delete, it particularly goes to trigger dot old only. For insert, it goes to trigger dot new only, right? And for undelete, again, it goes to trigger dot trigger undelete is as good as update operation. So this goes to trigger dot old as well as trigger dot. So I would require to split this into two separate logic. One for trigger dot new, another for trigger dot old, because we are consuming both of them. We are consuming both of them. Whenever see you have your trigger is utilizing both memories. Whenever you are building up a logic with a trigger that utilizes both memory, trigger dot new and trigger dot old. Yeah, trigger dot new map and trigger dot old map. You have to always create two separate logics for this. You always have to separate. You always have to bifurcate that into two separate logics. Let me try to show you something. Please write it down. जो मैंने अभी बोला ना, This is something which is very important. Test. Let me show you. I mean, what I was saying to you. Let me just try to show you a real time thing for that. So, कौन सा trigger था यार? See, what I just let me repeat the sentence. अभी जो मैंने बोला है ना, what I have told you. Just let me try to repeat it once again. See, I just said one thing. If your trigger is utilizing both memory, like trigger dot new and old, trigger dot old, or maybe trigger dot new map and trigger dot old map. If let's consider, like for example, this trigger, you can see I have created this on before insert and before update. Now insert, we know whenever we are trying to insert a new record, that goes to trigger dot update. Update goes to trigger dot new as well as trigger dot old. यही चीज मैं अभी आपको यहाँ कह रहा था कि when you are inserting something that goes to trigger dot new, when you are updating something that goes to trigger dot new, when you are undeleting something that also goes to trigger dot new and trigger dot old, right? When you are inserting something that goes to trigger dot new, when you are updating something that goes to trigger dot new as well as trigger dot old, when you are inserting something that goes to trigger dot new, only trigger dot new, when you are updating something, a record that goes to trigger dot new as well as trigger dot old, when you are deleting something that goes to trigger dot old only. And similarly, when you undelete something that goes to trigger dot, I'm a little confused about this, but when you delete something that goes to trigger dot new, I guess, and trigger dot old as well. Just I'll have to verify this. थोड़ा सा मैं confuse हो रहा हूँ यहाँ पे. So, if you know that your logic is utilizing both memories, new as well as old, so it is always recommended that you should split your logic in two. Like, see, this is what I did, and the way I used to teach is the same I used to code. कोई difference नहीं है, ठीक है? मैं जिस तरह से तुमको बताता हूँ ना, उसी तरह से मैं खुद कोड करता हूँ. So if you can see, जैसे ये बिफोर इंसर्ट और बिफोर अपडेट का लॉजिक था, तो मैंने इफ ट्रिगर डॉट इज बिफोर ये कॉमन कर लिया इसको, ठीक है? उसको कॉमन कर लिया, ये है इसका ब्लॉक यहाँ से लेके यहाँ तक. ट्रिगर डॉट इज बिफोर को मैंने कॉमन निकाला. उसके बाद इज इंसर्ट के लिए मैंने अलग लॉजिक लिखा है. दिस यू कैन सी, ये ब्लॉक ऑफ इज इंसर्ट है. एल्स इफ इज अपडेट. इस इंसर्ट के लिए मैंने ट्रिगर डॉट न्यू यूज किया है और यहाँ पे ट्रिगर डॉट ओल्ड भी यूज किया है. यहाँ पे न्यू भी यूज कर रखा है मैंने और ट्रिगर डॉट ओल्ड भी, ओल्ड मैप एज यू कैन सी, ओल्ड मैप वट एवर. बट आई हैव स्प्लिटेड दिस लॉजिक इनटू टू सेपरेट बिकॉज वहां पे दो अलग अलग चीजें रिक्वायर्ड थी. वैसे ये ट्रिगर क्या था? हाँ ठीक है, समझ गया. ये कुछ कोई मैसेज, मुझे एरर मैसेजेस प्रिंट करने थे बेस्ड ऑन सर्टेन कंडीशंस ऑफ प्राइस लिस्ट. तो ये थोड़ा सा ना याद रखो कि इफ योर ट्रिगर इज यूटिलाइजिंग बोथ मेमोरी, और आपको दो अलग अलग, जैसे इसके पहले भी आपने ट्रिगर बनाया है, डोंट गेट योर सेल्फ कंफ्यूज. आई जस्ट ट्राई टू एक्सप्लेन, यू डोंट वरी. हम ट्रिगर बना लेंगे, उसकी चिंता मत करो, बट आप कंफ्यूज मत होना. मैं एक एग्जांपल और लेता हूँ. अभी देखो यहाँ पे कैसा था कि कुछ फील्ड्स को अपने को मैंडेटरी करना था. तो चाहे वो इंसर्ट हो चाहे वो अपडेट हो, दोनों केस में, बट ऑपरेशन वाज सेम. यहाँ पे ऑपरेशन सेम था, आपका ऑपरेशन सेम था. इसलिए हमने एक ही लॉजिक बिल्टअप किया, बिकॉज वेदर इट वाज एन इंसर्ट और अपडेट. हालांकि इंसर्ट में ट्रिगर डॉट न्यू और अपडेट में ट्रिगर डॉट न्यू एंड ट्रिगर डॉट ओल्ड दोनों यूज होता है, लेकिन दोनों सूरतों में ना ऑपरेशन हमारा सेम था. इसलिए हमने एक ही लॉजिक बिल्टअप किया. लेकिन जब ऑपरेशन अलग अलग हो, एग्जीक्यूशन अलग अलग करवाना, तब आपको दो सेपरेट लॉजिक्स कर लेना चाहिए, वरना आपको डीएमएल एरर्स आते हैं यहाँ पे. चलो. सो सिमिलरली अभी जो हमारा लॉजिक है, मुझे आफ्टर इंसर्ट, आफ्टर अपडेट, आफ्टर डिलीट एंड आफ्टर अनडिलीट सारी चीजें कवर करना है. इसमें से अपडेट और डिलीट, ये दो ऐसे हैं. अनडिलीट के बारे में थोड़ा सा मैं पढ़ के बताता हूँ. अपडेट और डिलीट ऐसे हैं. अपडेट तो ऐसा है जो ट्रिगर डॉट न्यू और ट्रिगर डॉट ओल्ड दोनों में यूटिलाइज करता है. डिलीट पर्टिकुलरली ट्रिगर डॉट ओल्ड पे, अगर मुझे कोई एक रिकॉर्ड है उस पर वैलिडेशन अप्लाई करना है आफ्टर डिलीट, तो मैं ट्रिगर डॉट न्यू में नहीं कर सकता, बिकॉज वो रिकॉर्ड ट्रिगर डॉट न्यू में जाता ही नहीं है. तो मैं जो वैलिडेशन का लॉजिक बनाऊंगा वो ट्रिगर डॉट ओल्ड पे रहेगा। तो दो अलग अलग लॉजिक बन रहे हैं मेरे, इसलिए हम इसको ना दो हिस्सों में स्प्लिट करेंगे। ठीक है, इसको हम दो हिस्सों में स्प्लिट करेंगे। एक काम करते हैं, सारा कोड कल ही करते हैं, अभी इतनी जल्दी हो भी नहीं पाएगा। ठीक है, थोड़ा देर और लिख लेते हैं, छोड़, जहां तक होता है वहां तक लिख लेते हैं। सो लाइक दिस, जैसे मैंने ये ट्रिगर कोड किया है ना, बिल्कुल ऐसा ही मैं कोड करने जा रहा हूँ। सो यहाँ पे वो बिफोर था, यहाँ पे आफ्टर है। तो मैं क्या करता हूँ कि फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई वुड गोइंग टू सी फॉर ट्रिगर, बिकॉज एक चीज सब में कॉमन है और वो है आफ्टर। ये सारे इवेंट्स में एटलीस्ट एक चीज कॉमन है और वो है आफ्टर, तो मैं उसको पहले बाहर निकाल देता हूँ। सो इफ ट्रिगर डॉट इज आफ्टर, ये सभी में कॉमन है, राइट? इफ ट्रिगर डॉट इज आफ्टर, इफ ट्रिगर डॉट इज आफ्टर। अब इसके अंदर मेरे दो ब्लॉक्स क्रिएट हो, इस आफ्टर के अंदर दो ब्लॉक क्रिएट करता हूं मैं। एक तो मैं पर्टिकुलरली करता हूँ न्यू वाले के लिए, और एक ट्रिगर डॉट ओल्ड के लिए। ठीक है, यहां से हम इसकी शुरुआत। देखो, आप जब भी कोड करते हो, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल ट्राई टू हैव अ क्लैरिटी इन योर, and try to bifurcate, try to bifurcate in the, this is something called as modularized coding. What happens in modularized coding is like, you first of all understand the logic, then you evaluate the logic, and you see to this कि अभी इसको how we can break down this, how we can break down this into small modules. That is called as modularized coding. So अभी ठीक एकदम से नहीं होगा यार, but eventually if you would develop this practice, the coding becomes very easy to understand and coding becomes very easy to code. Gradually, I can also say, like, I can, when I am agree, this does not happens very instantly. This is a practice, this takes time, and it comes with the experience as well. But you should try to adapt this. You should, there are certain good habits, like अपने पेरेंट्स ने अपने को सिखाया, काफी सारी गुड हैबिट सिखाया, बचपन से सिखाया। जब हमको वो सिखाते थे कि लाइक कोई आपके घर में आता है तो यू शुड ऑलवेज ग्रीट दैट पर्सन। समटाइम्स वी डू, समटाइम्स वी फॉरगॉट, but they used to teach this every time. So there are a lot of good things that parents have taught to us, but we again take time to realize all those things. So similarly, I'm just trying to convince you some of the good practices. It would take time, it would take time you to develop those practice, but you should at least, start your journey in the same direction. There would be a certain point of life when you get this all, बट चलो ठीक है, अभी धीरे धीरे हम आगे बढ़ते हैं। सो ट्राई टू ऑलवेज मॉड्यूलाइज दिस। जैसे हमने यहाँ पे इवन व्हेन वी सी दैट देयर आर अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग टू बी गेट कवर्ड विद दिस ट्रिगर, this trigger should be get applied with almost every operation: insert, update, delete, undelete, after all of them. So we first of all understand, we know, like, what is a trigger dot new and old, where does it is used. That's why वो पहले दिन वहां पर आपको वो टेबल बना के देने का मकसद ही वही था। तो आफ्टर insert, update and undelete, that is being covered, the data goes to trigger.new. If you wanted to apply any validation after insert, after update, after undelete, you'll have to go with trigger.new. Whereas for trigger.update, update and delete, that goes to trigger.old. अपडेट दोनों में काम करता है, बट डिलीट स्पेसिफिकली ट्रिगर डॉट ओल्ड में। अगर इफ आई वांटेड टू अप्लाई एनी वैलिडेशन आफ्टर डिलीटिंग, आई जस्ट हैव टू गो टू ट्रिगर डॉट ओल्ड। तो यहाँ दोनों यूज हो रहे हैं, तो दोनों यूज हो रहे हैं, तो आपको स्प्लिट करना पड़ेगा। ठीक है, इस तरह से सोचना शुरू करेंगे। बस इतना ही करते हैं आज। लेट मी सेव अप टू दिस, और इसके बाद में हम कल इस पे और काम करेंगे। इट्स अ लेंदी ट्रिगर एक्चुअली, देयर आर अ लॉट ऑफ द थिंग्स दैट नीड्स टू बी गेट कवर्ड। तो आज हम इतना ही रखते हैं इसको, और कल हम लोग इसको पूरा करेंगे। Yes. All right. Any questions? See, it's really difficult to explain the complicated scenarios. I always try to dilute this as far as possible. I always try to explain a lot of things, and that's the reason I require times. And believe me, it was never being taught to us the way I used to, the way I used to teach it. It was never being taught to us in the same way. I always try to make the complicated logic uh, maybe bifurcated into small things, or maybe I just try to explain till the time I feel, I myself feel as a satisfied, like, yeah, I have explained it and a lot. So that's the reason I require time. And coding is something, maybe you guys are, a lot of people maybe inside you who are doing this for the first time. So I just consider that person in my mind the person who is doing this for the first time. So I try to explain it a lot. That could be a reason. Maybe some people of you have hands on the coding and they feel, why I'm explaining that much, and maybe you get it in the first time. But I consider the person in my class who is doing this for the first time, and he would definitely require to understand a lot of things before he could start this coding by his own. So that is the reason it takes time for me to explain the codes and everything. Anyways, so bear with this fact. And any questions? Any question? We're going to cover this by tomorrow. Any questions? Yes, any questions? This is my first batch, where nobody asked me any question. This is my first. I'm very lucky to have you guys. You don't ask questions. Yeah. Nothing? Thank you so much.